Good morning. Let's talk Wheel of Time. Full series spoiler warnings just because I don't know, I talk about like, oh, this character XYZ by the end of the series. So that in turn is a spoiler because now you know that they don't die. Dain Bornhald. This was a character that I wasn't looking forward to in the show, mostly based off lack of interest in the whole general Perrin plotline as well as his role. While it's important, it's not massive. Maybe you disagree with me, but when season two set up Perrin and Bornhald's relationship, I couldn't help but kind of get a lot more interested in that potential future plotline because it looked like they were investing in it for the long run. Dain is kind of introduced as this level-headed leader in this clean, dirty world. Well, a clean man in a dirty world. He's kind of stuck between his moral obligation to serve the light and his oaths to the White Cloaks, specifically serving under Valda, whose motivations we aren't certain of at the time. All we know is he's a lot more brutal and cruel. We get that scene in season one where he's burning the Aes Sedai. Avienda was introduced in this episode, and she's in the cage. He gives her some water. He treats Perrin to drinks, offers him a room for the night, most likely to kind of keep tabs on him, but he seems pretty suspicious of Perrin. But it's kind of a much different approach than what Valda would have taken had he found Perrin wandering through the camp in the night. I also kind of enjoyed the dialogue between the two, the back and forth while they're sitting there at that picnic table. Sometimes the back and forth conversations can have a lack of personality, but I thought this one was kind of stewing in it. You get a lot from this character while they're talking. And then Perrin tries to free Avienda, and the White Cloaks try to attack them. Perrin reveals his eyes to Bornhald, but he also prevents Avienda from killing him, and it kind of sets up this curiosity dynamic where he's definitely apprehensive towards Perrin, but he maybe at this point doesn't think he's some type of murderer. Which leads us to our next meeting of these two characters at Falm. They kind of meet each other on the battlefield, and there's clearly enough trust between them still at this point where they kind of fight back to back against the Shan-Chan, even if it was just for a moment. But then the way they show him and his father working together throughout this episode, in the Siege of Falm, and how kind of Joffrey Bornhald mentors him and kind of reinstates his faith in the light, drives his motivations and emotions, until Perrin ultimately kills him, kills his father in combat. Personally, my perception of the scene where Perrin kills Joffrey varies from character to character, but in Dane's mind, all he sees is Perrin burying his axe into his father's chest in a fit of rage, with his eyes glowing like some type of supernatural being. I thought the emotion, the anguish, the betrayal, and the anger displayed by the actor was really well done. And I cannot wait to see how they evolve this character and this conflict as they return to the Two Rivers. Dain will be faced with both the conflict of dealing with his superiors that have replaced his father, that may not share the same core values with the Light and the White Cloaks, and a new member of the White Cloak leadership that is going to be questionable, to say the least. And then they're going to be dealing with this community in the Two Rivers where Perrin comes from that they're now suspecting could be dark friends. They could be evil. They could be harboring Perrin. I really was not expecting the moral compass of Dain Bornhald to be such an interesting showpiece. But I think some of the best scenes from the episodes where his character takes place, just on a dialogue standpoint, or just I think the way that the actor portrays the character with his conflicting emotions, I think they're pretty darn good, and like I would say above the median for the show when he's on screen. So I'm looking forward to more of that in season 3 as we head to the Two Rivers. Those that have followed my channel for a while know that I've been praising the show's interpretation of Padan Fain since the first time he was on the screen. That faint whistle in the background whenever he's lurking around, and the way he appears like a ghost in some scenes, and kind of how this actor portrayed that friendly peddler and then he kind of turns into this sinister agent was almost perfect in my opinion. I put this one right after the Bornhald description because their stories, I'm assuming, will be somehow intertwined. You can see Padan Fain with white cloak armor in the promotional material, so I imagine his character will be making an appearance. The things he could potentially do in line with the source material, if presented in a meaningful manner, could take Perrin's story to the next level, as well as setting up this kind of internal strife within the White Cloaks that could stick around for many seasons to come if they choose to go that route. It almost seems like their show is gearing up to give Fain a more solid story arc. So I'm wondering if he could be even more involved with the activity in the Two Rivers, or if some of the off-page things that we hear about are going to make it to the screen, which could, if you've read the books, you know that could be pretty interesting, to say the least. I enjoy Padan Fain's story right up until I didn't in the books, if that makes any sense, and I'll just leave it at that. It really seems like the show is taking their opportunity to get creative with a character and make their own kind of thing with him with almost little consequences. I don't think there's anybody that are going to be like busting the doors down if Padan Fain's storyline doesn't align with what it is in the books late series. So I'm looking forward to that. The Elaida introduction. Elaida is an extremely controversial character in the series. To have her introduced at this season is a massive terms of antagonists and involvement. With the White Tower likely in an absolute chaos after the reveal of the Black Aja, I expect our new player will be en route from Camelin after hearing that they lost the daughter heir in season 2 when Elaine goes missing. With Swan and company kind of on their heels from the Black Aja assault, losing the daughter heir and perhaps covering it up, and most importantly, letting the Dragon Reborn walk free, it could be the perfect opportunity to kind of flex this political movement that exists within the White Tower. Swan set some dangerous precedents with her questioning Liandrin that may be flipped on her in the show later. She bars the Red Sitters from entering the hall during the interview. And that could definitely lead to some interesting implications if it's flipped on her. I think that's kind of like a common theme with just real life in general, is any ounce of power or corruption or rule changes that you allow for one administration, you have to keep in mind that the next one has now had the door opened to do the same thing. So I wonder if we'll kind of see that represented in the Wheel of Time in season 3. I also think they've shown that they can introduce characters and their importance properly in this show, and quickly. So I'm hoping by using the same techniques that they've already done, and they can kind of hit a home run with Elaida, because sometimes you introduce a character, but it's not. Like, it really depends on how well the scene is set up, the supporting material, the actress, the actors, and just generally the tone of even like a 20-minute introduction or 1-minute introduction can have all the difference. So hopefully whenever they do choose to introduce Elaida, it is a thing. Maybe they introduce us to the royal family, which obviously we know is a big deal, and then show the fact that there's also this Aes Sedai with them that they kind of heed to. So we'll see what happens with that. But overall, the storyline that Elaida comes with and the character growth of characters that interact with Elaida are all extremely... I mean, it's one of my favorite plot lines in the Wheel of Time, and it has to deal with one of the characters in the show that I think they've done the best. So I am looking forward to just generally getting the show moving and getting these plot lines rolling. The new Shadowspawn reveal. It's been alluded to that there will be new Shadowspawn introduced in this season, and the jury's kind of out on what this is going to be, if it's going to be something new, if it'll be a gray man, a dark hound, or, forgive me for pronouncing this, but a Drogkar, I don't know. If it was to be my guess, my money would be on a gray man, since it probably costs a lot less money to bring that to the screen. We see Rand getting attacked by a bubble of evil in the trailer, and those happen in the Stone of Tyr, like the specific one they showed in book 4, which is also where he gets attacked by a gray man. So I'm wondering if maybe like early season in Tarvalon, he's going to have like bubble of evil and somebody try to take his life, and that's going to kind of push them to make their next move. But we'll have to wait and see. So if it is Gray Man, I'll be interested to see kind of what they do, how they do it, if they do anything special with like visual effects for the fact that, you know, it's like you can't see them until you can. For some reason, our characters can. But if it is one of the like Dark Hounds or the other creatures of the shadow, so far in the show, when they do these reveals, it's kind of been like almost horror movie like, and I hope we get something similar. Like we have the first Trolloc bust into Rand and Tam's house. That was terrifying. And then we had the Fade at the bridge when they're crossing the bridge. I mean, that wasn't the first Fade appearance, I think, but like the way he's got his mouth and the hood, those were scenes that still stick out in my brain after 3 years. And there's some of the better scenes when I go back through and rewatch those first 3 episodes. So I'm hoping that they can kind of capture that energy in a bottle for their next reveal and just kind of make it just some type of almost horror movie. Because the more terrifying these creatures are set up to be, the more satisfying it is if our characters can overcome those kind of struggles with them. With our journey into the Waste beginning, one of my favorite clan chiefs will be joining us. Rhuarc is a strong character with wisdom to guide Rand and help him navigate the journey he faces. He also is a kind of a guiding person for other characters in the books. He's generally a consistent presence throughout the entire series in many of the important scenes. He's not necessarily like the main character in a lot of them, but he's always just kind of there, making them better, his information, what he adds to the scenes, guiding our young protagonists along when he can. He's kind of like the cool uncle of the series that just kind of gets stuff done and shows up when you need it. There's nothing really deep of why I'm excited for his character other than I just think he's a solid supporting character for the decisions that our main ones will be making. Also, the Aiel are cool. And he's one of the, like, he's a clan chief, right? Yeah, Rhuarc's a clan chief. Yeah. And so, I don't know, I'm looking forward to that. And then also, as a clan chief, we kind of will be able to maybe get some of that lore exposition into the Kara-Karn, into Rand's plotline, and kind of, once again, like Elaida coming in, it can advance our plot to some of the really juicy stuff that happens later on. Egwene's accepted test. We got a brief look at this in the trailer where Rand's kind of got this scraggly long hair and he's wading into the waters somewhere in the Two Rivers, I imagine. When I read these scenes in the books, they were always some of my favorite parts. The wonder they inspire for the universe that our characters live in always made me pause. These infinite realities that could have been, and we get tidbits of them in multiple timelines, whether it was the tests for the tower, the flicker sequence, the Rhuidean visions. There's so much extra narrative that kind of gets explored, and it kind of reminds me of like mini episodes of like that Marvel What If show. So the fact that we're going to get this from Egwene's perspective is really exciting to me, specifically Egwene, because I feel like her character has gotten some of the most authentic representation from the writing staff in this show, and Madeline Madden, in my opinion, is the best actress on the show that I enjoy watching. Not that the others are bad, I just think that she is that good. Her source material is that much more faithfully adapted, in which in turn, her story is the most satisfying to me. And so if we get her accepted test and all these kind of alternate realities that could have happened to her, I'm very much looking forward to what we could see in that. In the same vein as the accepted test, alternate realities is perhaps one of the most intense sequences in the entire series, Rand's journey into Rhuidean. Rand will travel there and go through the required trials, similar to kind of the accepted tests. He'll be exposed to these kind of past lives of, I don't know if they're necessarily Rand's ancestors. I forget that part. But it's meant to be kind of like an exposition into the Aiel. So us as viewers will be exposed to kind of this tragic story of life unfolding to eventually become what the Aiel are today. Um, I'm wondering if in this sequence they're going to go all the way back to the Age of Legends and all the way back to like when they try to tap into the big sphere in the sky that kind of does what it does. I think there's like 9 potential scenes. I wouldn't be surprised if they condense a few, but I'm ready to watch all of them if they choose to do so. Probably with my jaw on the floor. From the preview shot we got with Rand, he's kind of walking among the glass columns, and then he's in like this tunnelway, and he appears to kind of be in like the Age of Legends clothing that we saw from the one cold open in last season. So that makes me think they are going to show that kind of Age of Legends scene. We also get a glimpse of potentially what Moiraine saw when she went through them. She kind of has visions where she's the Amerlin. She has Rand subdued at the tower. He's wearing his bright red dragon coat. There's a bunch where Lanfear kills her, which I have this theory is why she's wearing like the chest armor in the promotional material. Maybe it's like she sees Lanfear stabbing her in the chest a bunch of times, so maybe it's some attempt to like do a sheath the sword kind of thing so she can ultimately take Lanfear out. Maybe even Moiraine will tell Rand how she thought she saw 14,605 futures and only one where they win, and this is how they do it. Who knows? Maybe. We'll see. But I, for one, am very excited for these sequences to be shown to us, and I hope whoever's in charge of the episode knows what they're doing. The Nynaeve and Moghedian conflict. We only get a brief glimpse of this, but considering it looks like the girls will be off in Chanchiko to hunt down the Black Aja, it's likely we get at least an initial introduction of these two characters, which kind of sets up this game of cat and mouse that continues for a good chunk of the series. Nynaeve's character growth that occurs during these encounters causes her to evolve into one of my favorite characters of the Emond's Field 5. And many of my favorite scenes of her are in conflict or just in conversation with Moghedian. So I'm interested to see how they kick off these two's relationship, where they're going to meet each other for the first time, if there's certain scenes that occur in the Panarch's Palace that they're going to show us this season. Whenever Nynaeve actually gets to like show her power and do something in the books, it was always kind of really exciting because she's this super powerful character, but she can't use it. It's kind of like early series Rand, how we know he's the Dragon Reborn. We know he has all this power, but he doesn't know how to use it. He can't control it. He can't, his weaving isn't good. Stuff just kind of happens. So it's like now that he's got his, we've got Nynaeve. She's got all this power, and we've been teased it since the beginning when she pushes the Amerlin up against the wall. That was Nynaeve, right? I really hope so. Anyways, but she can't channel it. She can't do it properly, and it's just so frustrating. So whenever she gets to, it's really satisfying. It's kind of like Goku first goes Super Saiyan, and then you just want him to do it again. Or anytime there's a huge power-up in Dragon Ball Z, you're waiting for the character to do it again, and you just can't. And you're just waiting and waiting and waiting. And when it finally happens, you're just like, yes. So anyways, looking forward to that, both from the power standpoint, the character standpoint. The Moghedian actress seems pretty cool, so I'm looking forward to that. Tel'aran'rhiod. I hope that's close enough. That's pretty good. Tel'aran'rhiod. The World of Dreams is what I'm going to say, or the Dream, because let's be honest, even if I said it right, if you don't, it's going to bug you if I keep saying it different than what it is in your head. But anyways, we've been exposed to the Dream a few times in the show so far. Each time it kind of gives us a glimpse into what is possible. But it seems like this season we're really going to be taking a deep dive. After all, one of the episodes is literally called Tel'aran'rhiod. So I think we'll be jumping into that. And I think promotional material, we got one of the wise ones doing like... There's a scene in book 4 where like Egwene goes into the dream, and there's a wise one as her younger self out hunting boars. I believe that's Amis. Amis? Did they say Amis in the show? I think it is Amis. So anyways, there's that. So we're going to probably get that little sequence where Egwene gets called to the waist by Amis when she kind of stumbles into Tel'aran'rhiod and meets this wise one that basically calls her back. We also see in the teaser Lanfear and Rand together, and how those two's relationship is going to progress throughout the season. You know, is Rand going to be still meeting with her to get information? Is this a one-off where she kind of is trapping Rand in the dream and confronting him? Is it even Rand? This could just be something in like that Lanfear's tormenting Egwene with. You don't know. You can see her like kissing Rand and like looking over his shoulder, which I'm assuming is going to be at Egwene. And at this point, Rand and Egwene have not had their kind of separation chat. So we'll see how that goes. Kind of makes sense to dive more into this because this is also when the story starts diving more into the world of dreams, because there's so much magic and exposition into both how the world works, how Saidin and Saidar works at this point, to have added now like a fourth huge magic system or a fourth huge system into the show. You know, they kind of got to tiptoe and put their waters in it, but slowly kind of deal out like what this can do. There's probably some important events that happen in the dream that won't be cut. So they'll definitely need to spend some time developing how the magic in the dream world works, and what the true power of a dreamer really is. I'm really excited for this, and hopefully the show, the pacing of things and the time needed to actually develop this properly, hopefully it's given, because sometimes they have made some questionable decisions with narrative in some of the seasons where they spend some time on things when I feel like if they would have given just like, honestly, just like a couple more scenes to a certain different people and events going on, it would have made like them a much more solid, concise thing. It's like if you would have spent 10 more seconds of just showing something on this scene, it could have been gone from like a 5 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10. But instead, we now have a 5 out of 10 scene and like a 3 out of 10 scene where you decide to just add something willy-nilly that, in my opinion, didn't advance anything. So hopefully they give the dream world and its kind of much needed explanations the time they require. Rand. If you're like me, while I've given the show credit where credit is due, one thing that I have been sorely missing is the development of Rand as a character. While I understand that they've been trying to build the world that the Dragon Reborn exists in, there still has been lots of screen time that could have been spent on some of Rand or his character arcs, and actions that kind of felt unnecessary and almost a disservice to his storyline could have maybe been changed or altered. That's probably a spicy topic, but anyways, with the events that look like are going to be taking place in season 3, I'm greatly looking forward to getting to know the show's Rand even more and what they ultimately kind of want to do with him now that they have more time and space to develop his character. He's now proclaimed as the Dragon Reborn. He's known to the Shadow. The Forsaken are loose, and the world is just kind of there for the taking. Since we have put off the Stone of Tyr until later, Rand is still just kind of this farm boy in society. He's got no city. He has no fortress under his thumb. And with the last episode of season 3 looking like it's being titled He Who Comes with the Dawn, and we also have the Rhuidean arc happening this season, I think it's safe to say that he is going to be no longer a farm boy, but maybe, the Karakarn, one of the, a leader of one of the most powerful forces in the world. So definitely going to be a lot of Rand development, and I'm hoping that that will satisfy me as a dissatisfied viewer at times. So, and maybe a lot of other people too, and it can hopefully kind of change some of the narrative and support around the show to have more of these characters that people can kind of cheer for and root for, that have interesting stories going on. The more of these kind of plots that get kicked off, the better it'll be. And I understand why you can't develop 5 characters storylines in an 8 episode season where they're only an hour long, where there's all this stuff going on. I get that. I think that's an unfortunate shortcoming of the restraints that Amazon has put on this show. I think the number of seasons that were ultimately greenlit for it to tell this story was way too short. The number of episodes are way too short. I do not envy the crew for having to come up with a storyline in that time. I could not do any better myself. That being said, sometimes I feel like there are things that could have been done different to at least make characters more interesting in the meantime before they get their come up, or kind of make them seem more important. But that is beside the fact. We see Rand training with the sword with the Lan in a couple spots. And then we see him and Couladin. They both have the dragon tattoos on their arms. They're standing back to back. So there's what looks like a lot of these pretty big book 4 scenes that are all pretty good are coming to the screen. So it sounds like we're going to get a lot of satisfaction as book readers in season 3. And I really hope the closer and closer we get back to that kind of source storyline, with things kind of cut out, obviously. I understand, like, Stone of Tear didn't happen yet. So we don't have Kalendor. We don't have the stone. But maybe after this season, we kind of have that slow roll into Rand becoming a more powerful character. Also, I just said it was a slow roll into Rand becoming a more powerful character. It's not really a slow roll. He just kind of, the whole series takes place in 2 years, and so it's just kind of like bam, 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 bam. So I got a feeling now that White Tower's been set up, Aes Sedai have been set up, Egwene's on her way, other characters have things going on. Rand get a little more power, a little more exposition, and then it's probably just gonna be like hit after hit after hit after hit after hit, if they really want to go that way, because there's a lot of stuff that's going to have to happen in the next couple seasons in order for them to be on track, because we're at season 3 now, and what was it supposed to be, 6 to 8 seasons for them to do the whole show? So if we're still on book, there is a lot that has to happen. So I think we're really, as long as the budget is there, we're really just gonna start getting boom, 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 boom. And these episodes are going to get more and more entertaining and satisfying as long as they can kind of follow it and get it right. So, yeah, anyways, those are just some things that I'm looking forward to in season 3. Definitely room for improvement from the last 2 seasons, but season 1, season 2, the last episode of season 2. So let's start season 3 here. End season 3 here, season 4, season 5, season 6, all right? Yeah, let's do it. I'm excited. I'm obviously not going to hate on this show just to hate on this show. I like the show. Please don't take what I talk about as me saying I don't like the show. I just think that, and I say this all the time when I talk about how I rate Wheel of Time, how I talk about Wheel of Time. Wheel of Time source material is here. The events that happen are here. Normal shows here. So I need 10 out of 10, Demise Wells, but also shot and shown to us in the same quality that some of the best movies and shows of all time have shown. So, I'm thinking, a 10 out of 10 is Demise Wells filmed as well as, these scenes in, Dune and Lord of the Rings that I really enjoyed. And not saying those are perfect movies, but, the best scenes in those movies plus the best plot lines of Wheel of Time are 10s out of 10. So saying something is a 5 out of 10 is not a disservice to it. That means it was a good scene, filmed all right, and I enjoyed it. So just to explain that before the season kicks off, maybe somebody new is watching this video that's not familiar with my content. That's just kind of a little heads up. But anyways, thank you for watching this if you're still here. I'm looking forward to season 3. Let's get hype. Enjoy.